All right, let's just jump right in, because this is one of philosophy's biggest, most unsettling questions. You're here, you're thinking, you're feeling, you know for a fact that you are conscious. But what about me? What about your friends, your family? How can you be absolutely 100% positive that you aren't the only conscious mind in the entire universe?
I mean, think about it like this. When you stub your toe, you feel that sharp, undeniable flash of pain. It's your experience. But when you see someone else stub their toe, well, you see them yell, you see them limp, you see them grimace, you see all the outward signs of pain. But can you ever really, truly know if they are feeling anything at all?
And right there, that's the heart of what philosophers call the problem of other minds. So to really unpack this mystery, we first have to get a handle on the fundamental barrier that creates it in the first place.
It really all comes down to this basic mismatch. See, I have this direct, private access to my own inner world, my thoughts, my feelings, and what philosophers call qualia. That's just the raw feel of an experience, the redness of red or the sharp sting of pain. But I can't access yours, not directly. All I've got to go on is what you do on the outside, your behavior. There's this unbridgeable gap between your inner life and what I can actually see. Now, if you take that doubt and you follow it all the way to its most extreme conclusion, you end up here: solipsism. This is the idea that the only thing you can ever be sure exists is your own mind. Everything and everyone else, well, it could all just be a projection, an incredibly detailed dream. It's a really lonely and chilling thought, but it is devilishly hard to prove wrong. So, to really put our intuitions to the test, philosophers cooked up this brilliant thought experiment. It's about the perfect imposter, and it makes this whole problem incredibly vivid.
So, meet the philosophical zombie. And no, we're not talking about brain-eating monsters. This is a perfect physical copy of a person. It talks, it laughs, it cries, it can even argue about philosophy with you. But on the inside, there's nothing. No experience, no awareness. It's the ultimate lights are on but nobody's home scenario. So here's the billion-dollar question. How could you ever tell the difference?
Okay, so the problem is pretty clear, and the doubts are frankly terrifying. But let's be real. We don't actually live our lives like we're the only person in the universe. So what are the arguments we use, whether we realize it or not, to convince ourselves that other people have minds?
The most common one is called the argument from analogy. And it's super intuitive, right? It just goes like this. Look, I know I have a mind, and I know my mind causes my body to act in certain ways. Then I look over at you, and I see you have a body that's a lot like mine, and you behave in ways that are a lot like me. So I just infer pretty reasonably that you probably have a mind in there that's similar to mine too.
And a second, really powerful argument is what's called an inference to the best explanation. The thinking here is simple. The idea that other people have minds is just the best, most useful, most predictive explanation for the incredibly complex social world we see all around us. It makes sense of friendships, conflicts, art, everything. Any other theory is just way more complicated and doesn't work as well.
But are these arguments really bulletproof? Because once you start poking at them, well, some of those old, serious doubts start to creep right back in.
Take that argument from analogy. It seems to work great for other humans. But what about an advanced AI that tells you it has feelings? Or an octopus with a nervous system that's completely different from ours? What about an alien life form? The more different something is from us, the weaker that analogy gets. And then you have to ask, where do you draw the line?
You might think, okay, forget philosophy, let's turn to science. And neuroscience does seem to offer some clues. Scientists have found these really strong correlations. They can literally look inside a brain with an fMRI and see that specific patterns of activity, like these things called familiocortical loops, light up whenever a person reports having a conscious experience. And that feels like solid physical proof.
But, and this is a huge but, there's a critical catch. It's a classic rule in science. All that neuroscience has really shown us, at least so far, is a correlation. It hasn't proven that the brain activity causes the consciousness. It's totally possible that the brain activity and the feeling of consciousness are both caused by some third thing we don't even know about yet. The causal link just isn't proven, and that leaves the door wide open for doubt. And that lingering doubt can lead to some really wild alternatives. I mean, if all we have to go on are behaviors and correlations, what's to stop us from seriously considering that we're living in a giant simulation? In that world, other people might just be incredibly sophisticated non-player characters, NPCs, perfectly programmed to act conscious, but with nothing going on inside. It's a crazy idea, but it actually fits the evidence we have.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is a fun, trippy, philosophical puzzle, but this isn't just an abstract game. This mystery has huge, real-world consequences for some of the biggest challenges we're facing in technology and science and in ethics.
Let's just break it down. Think about artificial intelligence. The famous Turing test only checks if a machine can imitate a human convincingly. It's all about behavior, it tells us nothing about its inner life. Or think about biology. Is our sense of empathy a real window into how other people feel, or is it just a clever survival tool that evolution gave us to help us stick together? And maybe most importantly, ethics. How do we decide who or what gets rights? We usually base the idea of personhood on having a mind. But if we can't ever prove a mind exists, our entire ethical system is suddenly standing on very shaky ground.
Obviously, this is a massive topic, and if your mind is buzzing right now, there's so much more to explore. Thinkers like John Searle, Joel Smith, and Maurice Merleau-Ponty have all written some really fascinating books that tackle this problem from completely different angles.
So, after all this uncertainty, after all this doubt, where does that leave us? Since he can't seem to find absolute logical proof, maybe the answer isn't a proof at all. Maybe it's a practical choice.
At the end of the day, it feels like we're left with a choice between two paths. On one side, you've got solipsism. It might be logically airtight, but it's a sterile, lonely, dead-end worldview. On the other side, you have what's called intersubjectivity, this idea of a shared world that we all build together, based on the fundamental assumption that other people are conscious just like us. It's an assumption, yeah, but it's the assumption that makes language, science, art, love, pretty much all of society possible.
And that really just leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. We may never, ever solve the problem of other minds with absolute certainty. That gap between your inner world and mine might be permanently unbridgeable. So maybe the belief in other minds isn't something to be proven, but something to be lived. Perhaps our faith in each other is the most essential, the most foundational, and the most beautifully unprovable truth that holds our entire world together.